Okay, alright. Break us into it. We're doing how to create an effective party without a healer.
Alrighty, this might actually be there might be a bit of preference to this, depending on your tabletop role playing game system. Uh, Different strategies will work, and some strategies will not. I would say Dungeons and Dragons Fifth Edition, you don't necessarily have to have a dedicated healer.
No.
Uh, Healing spells are pretty broadly dispersed amongst classes.
Plus, they just got buffed up
Yeah,
significantly.
and then you also have some healing potions and various other things. So, in my personal opinion, Dungeons and Dragons is pretty easy. I would go ahead and explain your thoughts specifically on Dungeons and Dragons Fifth Edition and 2014 and 2024 on that because I'll touch into Pathfinder
In
Second
terms of
Edition.
having a
Yeah,
in terms of having a healer versus not having one.
go ahead and just roll out on it. I'm gonna
So in
I'm
terms
gonna
of
addendum in Pathfinder Second Edition right
in
after.
terms of having a healer in D&D 5e, it's not necessary. You can have one, and it can be nice, but there is an argument that I hear made very frequently, which is that the best form of healing is just not taking the damage in the first place because you killed that thing faster. Maybe you'd prevent more damage than healing was necessary if that thing died faster from you having another damage dealing character instead.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which it can be true, but there is times when you look, guys, crit happens, right?
Yeah.
Crit happens, and then the fighter goes down, and then who's getting them back up? It's useful to have someone who has that capability. Mind you, you don't need a full on life cleric that's fully focused into it, but generally, even like, do rangers get healing word?
Rangers do get healing spells.
Rangers get healing word, so you could get them. I think they get healing word.
They get a bunch of healing spells, but I
They
don't know if
might
it's
not get
word.
healing word.
No.
Maybe
Not a
it's
lot of
cleric.
people.
Maybe they have to magic
Not a lot of
initiate into
people
cleric or
play.
whatnot. Yeah,
Not a lot of people play ranger, and I
but
don't think they do get healing word, but they do get they do get
the
healing
camera's
spells.
slowing down a little. I think
Yeah.
maybe not. So it's useful to have someone that knows or has the ability to get others up, but it's not necessary. Personally,
I'm checking Jeff because he's a ranger and he's my ranger.
I don't think that you need to actually build any kind of party with a healer in mind.
Well, I happen to have Jeff, who is my level 4 ranger, and he happens to have Cure Wounds as a healing spell, Goodberry, and that's pretty much it for his healing spells. But those are pretty darn good healing spells.
Okay. So the important part is really you can make up like any party composition you want as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You could make it work with all bards, all fighters, all rogues, right?
But
Any
fighters
combination.
have self healing ability, bards have healing spells, druids have healing spells.
Rogues have so much damage reduction that it almost doesn't matter. You don't need a healer. It's nice to have, but it's nice to have just like it's nice to have a wizard. It's nice to have just like it's nice to have a rogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just another archetype that's nice to have. It's not just like you need to have it, right? It is just that nice to have.
Yeah. In Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, pretty much every class, almost every class, has some kind of healing spell or ability. It's just a matter at what level you get them. Like wizards have like
Or what subclass?
yeah, what subclass? Like wizards have Wither and Bloom, which is an awesome damage spell, but also throws in a bit of healing as well. So in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, it's literally just like each party member just happens to pick the right spell or a subclass, but there's also the healer feat, and then there's also as well as a few other spells like aid and a few other things like false life if that really buffs up characters.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes the best solution for healing is not just simply kill it faster, but pre-heal with aid and false life and stuff like that
Yeah.
to give
Or
yourself
tack on additional abilities
or tack on
yeah.
something else that gives you a little extra protection, like say silvery barbs or shield.
Yeah.
And say like tabletop gaming systems, other systems like Pathfinder Second Edition, you can generally not have a character who has healing spells. You can have characters that have healing feats, such
Yeah.
as battle medicine and several others, combat medic and so forth, that give you extra healing or extends the window in which you can heal characters or shortens your your medicine skill little time the immunity time window so you can use it more frequently. You can
Yeah.
actually, if you have a feat, you can heal with medicine, your medicine check in Pathfinder Second Edition, and as well as other tabletop role playing game systems. If you're talking about Call of Cthulhu, there's not very many options in that department. I'm sorry, you are
You just get to die.
you get to die or you survive just long enough to go to the medical hospital to patch up your wounds
Before you die of like gangrene.
or gangrene, or your character eventually gathers enough insanity
Yes.
to crack and needs to be locked
Getting
up in
there.
a mental institution. So, or in say like Cyberpunk, where you can have various augmentations where your character has improved healing or resistance to damage, or you can literally just like lose an arm and replace it. So with a new arm that happens to have a knife that folds out of it. And for those handy dandy shiving situations,
They come up so often.
so every tabletop role playing game system has their options for
So with the
non-healing.
with the premise of how to create an effective party without a healer, do you think that with that premise that the party needs to put any effort towards making their group cohesive in that they don't have a healer? Does that make sense?
As it is universally with every tabletop role playing game system I know of, the less, if you do not want to have a healer in your party,
Do you
it
need
becomes
to do anything
yeah,
differently?
you would have to make a point of using tactics better, depending on the tabletop role playing game. Some systems favor for certain things over others. You might have to have more distributed healing capacity, say like in Pathfinder Second Edition. You might not be able to, if you don't have like a cleric or someone who has a lot of powerful healing spells, you might have to have multiple people who have different healing feats to
Or
cover multiple people in the party at a time. So one person could use one feat to heal a person, and the other person can use another feat to heal another person.
or
And they can work
stacking
yeah,
stacking abilities
yeah,
that are damage reduction,
yeah.
like uncanny dodge
Yep.
or a certain type of Goliath, right?
Yeah. Racial feats, racial species feats, or class character traits or something like that. Say like second wind, and for the fighter, it helps out a lot.
Or if you have a thief rogue, the thief rogue taking healer's kit,
Yeah.
so that they can bonus action have people roll a hit die and get them
Yep.
back up and get some additional healing that way.
Yeah, if your human healer happens to have two feats, they can pick up their standard, their alert or their skilled feat.
Do you think that
Stick it in their wisdom if they get their expertise. Stick it in their medicine skill.
Do you think
and
that
then
everyone should take one of those abilities that can help the group, or help get someone back up, or so
it
and so
is
forth?
generally it is possible depending on the tabletop role playing game system to do so. It's not necessarily necessary to do that. The less you want to have a healer in your group, probably the more important it is to have more people that have a ability that helps heal themselves and or another player's character.
I'm of the opinion that generally you should try and grab one of those types of abilities, or
I
have
agree.
access, even if you have a healer.
Yep, that too. That's the general. Generally, I would agree that if anything, if you have one healer, you should probably have a second person in backup on that.
The off heal, they don't even need like a full heal, but
Yeah.
someone who can get involved and do
Yeah.
things.
Say like if you have a cleric in the party that is good at healing, happen to have a druid that happens to have a healing spell, or a bard that happens to have a healing spell, or a rogue that has the healer
Yeah.
that they can heal on a thief rogue. They can heal on a bonus action on the party member.
Yeah.
That has good medicine check. That's awesome. That works great right there. So you don't necessarily need a healer if you spread healing out across the party. But also, even if you do have a healer, it's probably strongly advised to not literally just have that healer be the only person that can heal.
They're
or
frantically
bring a
running
person
around
up.
the battlefield.
Because if they're running around in the battlefield, but there's also always the occasional chance that someone drops a fireball on that healer and they go down.
Yeah.
Because it's not unusual for the dungeon master to ever so often decide that a bullet should sprout out of the ground
And murder the healer for
and
no
murder
reason.
the tabaxi cleric that talks to God too much.
Sometimes they need to die.
Yeah, sometimes it happens, and sometimes the party needs a backup healing option, particularly to bring up the healer. So there you go. That's the general gist. It's doable.
Yeah.
You have different options depending on your tabletop role playing game system.
I think on average, you can get away without it, but it's better off if your group is playing well and like making good decisions.
Yeah.
Right? You have to consider your decisions more so when you don't have a healer
Yeah.
than when you do, because the healer gives you leeway there, and you can buy yourself even more leeway by having the healer and those additional means. But on average, if you're not taking a healer, you should have other means of healing or mitigating damage or helping your allies.
Like a side option on that is control spells too.
True.
Literally just dropping a spell on an enemy is like slow or hypnotic pattern or to slow them up alleviates the need for a healer. So
Yep.
if you're gonna not invest in healing, you might as well invest in more control spells
Yes.
for the job, or buff spells to buff up the party to make them harder to hit or able to take more damage, or spells that cripples the enemy's debuffs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But yeah, that's our thoughts. You can do it without a healer. It maybe won't necessarily be harder, but for it not to be harder requires a better skill level of the party.
Yeah.
I would say.
You take out one area and you have to stack more points into another.
Exactly.
And sometimes if you take out too much in one area, you have to stack even more points on there, like doubling the double on there. So,
yeah.
So like if you have no control and you have no healer, you really have to optimize for the damage
mitigation and
damage
output
options, because you literally have to kill the thing super fast before it does a bunch of damage on
the
you.
glass cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to have your Winston Waltworth or death bonk the dragon into the ground.
As he does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for that topic.
Yep.
Healers are useful. Not required.
Healers are awesome too.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're not required, but they sure do make some things easier.
And the classes that have a lot of healing spells, like the cleric and the druid and a bard,
Very powerful classes.
Have a ton of options outside of healing as well. So even if you're playing those classes, just having one or two spells doesn't literally lock you to healing.
Yep.
You can do other things.
Absolutely.
That might be a concern of some players, or is why they, I
don't want to play a cleric. I don't want to be the healer.
Yeah.
Well,
you can kami someone with a sunbeam attack.
Yeah, you can still murder, do great things on the cleric, but it's useful if you also take healing spells.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being here. Yep. Thank you for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe, even like and share the video.
Yep. You guys have a good day.
and you guys should have a good night.
Have a good one.